The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy, close quote. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for having to miss the testimony of some of you, and I appreciate you coming today. Professor Franks, let me ask you, I listened to your and Ms. Hemingway's testimony and Professor Turley's, so I got part of it. As I understand it, your position, Professor Franks, is that, I think you used the word myth. It is a myth that the Biden administration used government to compel speech, private speech, but that the Trump administration is doing that. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you think perhaps you're allowing your personal political beliefs to affect your objectivity here?
No, I do not. What is guiding my answers here is that I'm looking to see what the Supreme Court has said. You notice that in the testimony about the censorship industrial complex.
I got that part.
No, I just
want
to
that
clarify.
part. No, but I've only got 5 minutes. Your answer is no, as I appreciate it. Let me ask you a couple questions. You wrote a law review article in December of 2023 for the New York University Law Review, and it was about the two cases, Bruin, Supreme Court case, and Dobbs. Remember that article?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In this article, you said, I'm going to quote your words, "Taken together, these two cases demonstrate that the Supreme Court has embraced the use of the Constitution as a tool of racial patriarchy," end quote. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went on to say, quote, "When the Supreme Court declares that there is a constitutional right to armed self-defense in public, it openly embraces and promotes a culture that privileges white men's ability to terrorize and kill those that they perceive as threats," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe so. Thank you for reading.
Okay. And did you also say in that article, I'm going to quote again, quote, "by simultaneously expanding white men's right to kill and constricting women's right not to die, this Supreme Court," referring to the current United States Supreme Court, "has turned the Constitution into a homicide pact as well," close quote. Did you write that?
That sounds like me.
Okay. In November of 2024, you tweet, don't you?
I'm not sure what the current terminology is for it, but yes, I am sometimes on the social platform that was formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, you're on a lot, aren't you?
I'm not sure what the relevance of that is.
You're trying to be provocative on there, don't you?
Again, I'm not sure what the relevance
Well,
of this question is.
let me show you the relevance. On November 7th, 2024, from your tweet, here's one of your tweets at 2:41 p.m., quote, "The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I am not sure what this has to do with the subject matter of this.
Did you say it?
I do not have those words in front of me. I probably said something along those lines, but
Yeah,
what is the relevance of that to
Here it
this
is, big as
hearing?
Dallas, right there.
Yes.
But your political beliefs don't impact your feelings about President Biden or President Trump.
I don't have feelings about either of them. What I have
Sounds
is
to me
doctrine.
like your favorite feeling is anger. Let me ask you this. You issued another tweet. This was in May of 2022. You've just been tweeting up a storm. You said, quote, "There's a reason why the conservative-dominated Supreme Court thinks the Constitution does not contain a right to an abortion, but is convinced that it contains an individual right to possess firearms. And that reason is white male supremacy, close quote. Did I read that correctly?
Is there a question in this?
Did I read that correctly? That's
Is there
my
a question that is relevant to this hearing?
Did I read that correctly? Do you really think that the United States Supreme Court, you're an officer of the court, is guided by white male supremacy?
I believe that the First Amendment prohibits the president
Did you
and other
say
state
that?
officials for punishing people for
Did
their
you
speech.
honestly say that, Professor?
I
And you
believe
expect us,
that the First
as a
Amendment,
Democratic witness, to take you seriously? Are you kidding me?
I believe that you should take
You've
the First
heard of
Amendment
curb your
seriously, sir.
enthusiasm? Here's my saying, curb my nausea.
I
Thank you.
believe that you should
The
take
time
the
has
First
expired.
Amendment
Thank
seriously.
you. Senator Durbin.
Senator John Kennedy begins by apologizing for missing earlier testimony, but quickly shifts into what becomes a familiar pattern: combative questioning designed not to find truth, but to generate sound bites. He turns to Professor Franks, already attempting to frame her scholarship as politically biased. Kennedy presses her, "Is it a myth that the Biden administration compelled private speech and that the Trump administration did?" She answers clearly, "Yes, that characterization is correct." Instead of engaging with the substance, he tries to paint her as driven by personal political beliefs. She reminds him she is relying on Supreme Court language, not partisan narratives. But Kennedy isn't interested in constitutional analysis. He's interested in theater. He digs up a 2023 Law Review article she authored and plucks out phrases about racial patriarchy, the court's expansion of gun rights, and the consequences for women's safety. She acknowledges her writing. Kennedy then leans into the Outrage performance, reading her words back as if the concept of racialized power structures is somehow absurd or forbidden in academic discourse. He then drifts into policing her tweets, an increasingly common tactic among Republicans who cannot argue the merits of a case, so instead attack tone, style, or personal commentary. He recites a tweet expressing deep concern about misogyny in the United States, ignoring the point she tries to make. None of this is relevant to the actual subject of the hearing. Kennedy pushes again and again, trying to force a reaction. She resists, repeatedly asking how any of this pertains to the hearing's topic, the First Amendment and the role of government in moderating online speech. Instead of addressing the real constitutional issues at stake, Kennedy aims to delegitimize the witness by framing her as angry, provocative, and untrustworthy, a strategy often used to dismiss women, especially women who challenge entrenched power structures. He reads another tweet criticizing the conservative Supreme Court for rolling back reproductive rights while aggressively expanding gun rights, calling it rooted in white male supremacy. Again, rather than engage the argument that the court's decisions disproportionately empower certain groups while harming others, Kennedy tries to turn the hearing into a referendum on her personal ideology. She attempts to redirect the conversation back to the First Amendment. Kennedy interrupts, refusing to allow explanation, as if his job is not oversight, but intimidation. Finally, Kennedy ends the performance with a smug, scripted line meant to go viral. He references "curb your enthusiasm" and adds "curb my nausea." It's a cheap punchline, revealing more about his style of politics than about the witness. Instead of examining government overreach, digital censorship, or constitutional limits, the actual purpose of the hearing, Kennedy uses his time to wage a culture war, reduce serious scholarship to political ammunition, and insult a witness whose expertise he never seriously engaged. The chairman moves on. Time has expired. The spectacle is over. But the moment is revealing. Republican senators increasingly rely on personal attacks because they cannot defend their record on civil liberties, reproductive rights, or democratic institutions. In contrast, Democratic witnesses and lawmakers continue trying to discuss facts, law, and consequences, even when faced with theatrics designed to silence them.